The story begins with someone shouting that they hate this. At that moment, a blue aura seems to return to the body. The boy opens his eyes and suddenly rises from the bed. Obviously, out of breath, you can already imagine what happened. He's wondering if he hadn't died and why his body feels warm again. Besides that, his hand had no calluses as if it were 10 years ago. That's when he looks around and realizes he's in the university dormitory. Immediately, he grabs the pillow, takes his phone and sees a girl dancing. He analogs the bed and notices there are no scars on his face. You already know what happened. Yep, the bastard reincarnated. Right before the apocalypse starts. He remembers what happened when he became the 10th War God of Dragon City. 2 other war gods from the neutral field invited him to party. However, in the middle of the conversation, suddenly, a high-level zombie broke in. In a moment, he was fighting the creature he was struck from behind. And the 2 down war gods helped the creature kill him. Then a girl approaches and asks Lindsay if he liked the gift he received from her family. On the ground, he asks why she is there. That's when he found out that demons had made a deal with the Lee family. The girl named Yo Jing was the prettiest in school and he was always happy to have her by his side. What he didn't know was that she was only with him under orders from the young master of the Lee family. They used him as much as they could. And when he started getting too strong, they finished him off. This would actually help the Lee family become one of the 3 biggest in Dragon City. But now he's back in the present. With the combat power he had, he could easily have gotten rid of the Lee family. However, he never imagined he'd be betrayed like that. But now he's back at the moment when she was still just his girlfriend. Then he receives a message on his phone. Yo Jing says she's going to give some lessons to children, so she won't be able to celebrate his birthday with him. However, poor Lindsay already knows that at this time the only lesson she was giving was through the touch of the Lee family. On that date, he received a video gift that was unforgettable. Man, it seems our boy was a major cuckold. He says it's fine, but at first he wants to meet her in the shed behind the school because he misses her. She says she'll go because it's his birthday, but it has to be quick. He knows that the guy she's involved with called Lai Hao seems to want revenge against him because of things his father did long ago. On that day in the past, he had planned a lot of things to celebrate with Yo Jing. However, what he got was a video that humiliated him. But now the rascal is reborn and won't let that tragedy happen again. Outside, everyone was wondering why the sky was red. Obviously, no one suspected the apocalypse was coming. But Lindsay knows that at 7 in the evening is when it would all begin. And the people there don't know that very few of them would survive. He then heads to the school's shed. He angrily opens the door. At the back of the room is Yo Jing sitting on a chair. She says he has to be quick because she has to teach the kids. But he already pulled the blade from up his sleeve and says not to hurry as he's going to deliver a little gift now. Slowly, he starts getting closer. And she tells him to spit it out because otherwise, she's leaving as she has better things to do. But suddenly, he grabs her by the throat. Now desperate, she calls him a crazy psychopath and tells him to let her go. But he says that on the 16th of March, she spent 53,000 at a modern hotel in Modu. Right after on the 29th, she spent another 109,000 yuan. Confused, Yo Jing keeps asking what he's talking about. He continues talking about dates and amounts she's been spending. That's where she starts realizing that these hotel names all seem familiar. He then says that on the 13th of April, she spent 409,000 at the Magic Bar. That's when she realizes these were all records of the dates she met with Lai Hao. At that moment, she asked him to wait a moment that she's going to explain everything. He responds that he's very eager for that explanation. He grabs her phone and unlocks it. There's a message from Lai Hao saying she's excited to meet him and telling her that the full belief she was going to teach the children. Obviously, that's all Lindsay needed to see. He then suddenly releases her, puts her on the ground, and plays a video. Before the video starts, he says Lindsay is the foolish boyfriend and congratulates him. A second later, the video says exactly the same words, wishing him a happy birthday. In the video, she asks why he believed that a beauty from the school like her would fall in love with a loser orphan like him. Terrified, Yo Jing starts wanting to know how he already knew the whole message before hearing it. Lindsay keeps repeating the message. She says that if it weren't for Lai Hao, she never would have gotten involved with trash like him. The poor thing is going crazy. She didn't send that video to anyone. So how does he already know? She then says in the video that if it weren't for him, she never would have gotten involved with Lai Hao. Then she thanks the loser. That's when she realizes everything had been revealed. Lindsay just keeps staring. If the next question is whether she isn't curious about how he knows all of this, she stands still for a second and pushes his arm, telling him to go to hell. However, Lindsay says that's exactly where she belongs. And man, I thought he was going to forgive her, but the boy doesn't go easy at all. The girl turns into a bowling ball and falls to the ground like a piece of trash. With that, our guy lets out a sigh. He falls to the ground, kneeling, emotional because it took him 10 years to achieve this. He starts laughing, saying he was to see for 10 years, but he finally did it. She had paid the price for everything she did to him. But obviously, that wasn't enough. Now was time to kill that damned Lai Hao who's hiding in the Li family. And that's when the famous overpowered system shows up in the apocalypse. He looks at his phone and sees it's 6:05. It was supposed to all start at 7. So why was the system already showing up? The system only says it's there to provide a better gaming experience. Some digital circles begin appearing around him. And then the system tells him to request his first ability. Not just an ability, but actually a super hack. What he receives is the absolute item drop. This makes it so that any creature he kills has a 100% chance of dropping an item. Considering that everyone else only has a 1% chance, this was clearly overpowered. While others would have to kill hundreds of zombies for everyone he killed, he gets stronger. It was so good that he even asked the system if he can trust this. The status window activates and it clearly shows his super hack is turned on. At that moment, he's already excited about how strong it is. The guy who translated this must think I'm a magician to read this stuff upside down, you bastard. But what matters is that our dear Lin Z is pumped to destroy the Li family. The only problem is that he's just a lonely orphan while those guys have a giant family. Not only do they have tons of soldiers, but also some secret techniques. Not to mention, he's always wanted to know exactly why the Li family hated him. The plan before was to gradually get stronger without anyone knowing and only then attack that family. But now, if these hacks you won't have to wait so long. With that, he leaves the shed and our boy doesn't forgive his wife Yu. No sir, the kid got his revenge in 2 chapters. Outside, everyone's finding the sunset beautiful, talking about how they need to make a heart and take a nice photo. Our boy laughs, saying they have no idea that soon enough they'll be eating each other and not in a good way. But the rascal is heading to the Love Hotel. He gets there, asks for an hour in a room. 3 bottles of water and 5 buns. The guy says okay and gives him a price of $40. Our boy says to send the talented and hardworking number 3. Already in the room, he knows there are 5 minutes left for everything to start. He remembers that in his past life, this number 3 became a zombie boss. Luckily, he managed to finish her off and that's how he began to evolve. Obviously, this is the best option. So he's going to repeat it, especially considering the system's talent. Someone at the door says number 3 wants to enter for the service. She comes in all dangerous, saying he's handsome, so it's going to be worth it. But she stops for a second and is startled. She approaches our boy and asks why he's wearing so many clothes over his epidermis. She's not a traveler, but she already wants to explore the mountains and asks what he's waiting for. But our Sigma boy tells her to take a shower first. As soon as she leaves, he notices she has that rotten zombie smell. Before the apocalypse began, you could tell who was going to turn just by that smell. The trap approaches the door. Inside, she's telling him to stop stalling, as she knows he wants some water fun. But our boy drags it out, so she turns off the shower. Right at that moment, his phone rings signaling it's 7 o'clock. In the same second, her body begins to be infected. Her pupils dilate and she starts getting green skin, already making those classic zombie noises. Our boy opens the door and sees her transforming. She reacts immediately and turns toward him, running to disarm him. But with 10 years of experience, he just gives one strike to the neck. The poor thing's head hits the floor. The system even shows the window saying she's dead. He lets out a sigh. And here comes the system, right, my boy. With that, he finally receives the welcome to the apocalypse game. Once he's activated, there's no stopping it. And he has to find a way to evolve. Zombies have excellent hearing but terrible vision. 80% of the unlucky ones instantly became zombies. To help him out, the system offers more tips. Killing creatures would help him level up, which would allow him to gain new abilities, attributes, and talents. Besides that, every creature he killed had a small chance of dropping an item.